Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're uncovering the layers of a life truly unlike any other in Middle-earth. Aragorn, son of Arathorn.
Yes, his story. It's far more than just, a king returning. It's a saga, really.
Shaped by prophecy, loss, incredible love.
And this unwavering commitment to a destiny he seemed to, well, almost resist at times before finally embracing it.
We've pulled together some amazing source material, trying to piece together the whole picture, his travels, those iconic artifacts he carried.
Like Narsil or Anduril and the Ring of Barahir.
Exactly. And the relationships, the people who defined his journey from this hidden child,
Estel.
right, Estel, all the way to King Elessar Telcontar.
Our mission today, really, is to pull out the most compelling parts of his life story.
Help you understand the man behind the legend, the layers to his character.
And appreciate how this intricate web of heritage, all these ancient lines, culminated in his return.
So, get ready to discover some perhaps surprising facts behind the man often just known as Strider. Okay, let's dive into the earliest chapters. Aragorn II, born March 1st, 2931 of the Third Age.
Right, to Arathorn II and Gilreen.
But even before he's born, there's this prophecy hanging over everything.
Yes, from his grandmother, Gilreen's mother, Ivorwin. She really pushed for the marriage.
Believing hope might be born for the Dúnedain.
Exactly. And she specifically mentioned their son would one day wear a green stone upon his breast, foreshadowing much.
Definitely holds significance later. But tragedy strikes early.
Very early. Aragorn's only 2 years old when his father, Arathorn, is killed.
An orc arrow, wasn't it? While hunting with Elrond's sons.
That's right, shot through the eye, a brutal end. So Gilrain, understandably worried, sends him away.
To Rivendell, to be fostered by Elrond, which was sort of a tradition for Isildur's heirs, wasn't it?
It was a place of safety and, well, secrecy.
Because Elrond kept his identity completely hidden, called him Estel.
The Sindarin word for hope.
And what's fascinating there is how he lived under that name for years.
Absolutely. He was the hidden hope, literally embodying it before he even knew who he really was. A heavy burden for a child, you'd think.
It must have been. He doesn't find out until he's 20.
Correct. In 2952 TA, he'd been off on journeys doing great deeds with Eladon and Elrohir, Elrond's sons.
And when he gets back, Elrond decides it's time.
Yeah, Elrond seems pleased with his development, his character. And he reveals it all. You are Aragorn, son of Arathorn, heir of Isildur.
Quite the moment. And that's when he gets the heirlooms.
Yes, the heirlooms of the Dúnedain of the North. Critically, the shards of Narsil.
The sword that cut the ring from Sauron's hand.
Right.
Wow.
And the Ring of Barahir, but importantly, not everything.
Right, the scepter of Annúminas is withheld.
Elrond's message is clear. You still have to earn it. The kingship isn't just inherited, it has to be proven.
Speaking of those heirlooms, the Ring of Barahir.
Yeah.
That's not just some trinket.
Oh, absolutely not. It's one of the oldest, most storied artifacts in all of Middle-earth. Its history is deeply woven into Aragorn's own fate.
So where did it even come from?
Forged way back.
Yeah.
In Valinor, the Undying Lands, by the Noldor and Elves.
Before they even came to Middle-earth.
Exactly. It has this distinct design. 2 serpents with emerald eyes meeting under a crown of golden flowers.
Which was the symbol of Finarfin's house.
Right. And it originally belonged to Finrod Felagund.
Galadriel's eldest brother. So an incredibly noble lineage for a ring.
Absolutely. And its journey from elf to man is legendary in itself.
Okay, tell us about that. How did it pass over?
Well, in the first age, 455 FA, Finrod finds himself in a tight spot at the Fen of Sarek.
And a man helps him out.
A man named Barahir. Finrod, in gratitude, swears an oath of abiding friendship and aid in every need.
And the ring seals that oath.
Precisely. He gives Barahir the ring, and it becomes known as the Ring of Barahir from then on.
But the story gets darker, doesn't it?
Tragically, yes. 5 years later, Barahir and his men are betrayed. Orcs attack.
And Barahir is killed.
Yes. His son, Beren, finds his father's body, and the orc captain is literally holding Barahir's severed hand with the ring still on it.
That's grim.
Beren manages to kill the captain, retrieve the hand and the ring. He buries his father and keeps the ring.
And that ring becomes crucial for Beren later, right? With Luthien and the Summerall quest.
Absolutely crucial. He uses it to prove his identity to King Thingol, showing the jewel's green that burned in Beren's ring.
And he shows it to Finrod, too, doesn't he? In Nargothrond.
He does, reminding Finrod of that oath sworn years ago. And Finrod honors it, ultimately sacrificing his own life to save Beren.
Wow. So the ring carries the weight of that sacrifice, too.
It does. It stays with Beren, even seems to return with him when he's granted a second life with Luthien.
And then it passes down the line.
Through their son Dior, then Elwing, then to Elros.
Elrond's brother, the first king of Númenor.
Exactly. So it becomes a royal heirloom of the Númenorian kings.
But then there's a twist in how it's passed down.
A significant one. Unlike the main royal line, it passes to a daughter, Silmarion.
And through her line, it becomes an heirloom of the lords of Andúni.
Yes, for almost 2,500 years. Eventually reaching Elendil and then Isildur.
After Isildur dies at the Gladden Fields, its path gets a bit murky.
A bit of a mystery, yes, but it survives. It passes through the kings of Arnor and Arthedain in the north.
Until the last king, Arvedui.
Right. And when Arvedui is fleeing the Witch King, facing disaster, he ends up with the snowmen of Foreshell, the Lossoth.
And he gives them the ring.
As a gift, yes, out of gratitude for their help. He tells them essentially, this ring has no power in itself, only the value my family places on it. It won't help you directly, but if you're ever in need, my kin will pay dearly to get it back.
Which they did.
The Dúnedain did ransom it later, and then it was kept safe in Rivendell for centuries.
Until Elrond gives it to Aragorn in 2952.
Saying, here is the Ring of Barahir, the token of our kinship from afar, connecting Aragorn directly back to Beren, Finrod, and that whole epic history.
So Aragorn receives this incredible ring, steeped in history and oaths. What happens next? It's almost immediate, isn't it?
The very next day, talk about destiny. He's walking in the woods near Rivendell, actually singing the Lay of Luthien.
The story of Beren and Luthien, whose descendant he now knows he is.
Exactly. And he sees this elf maiden who looks to him just like Luthien herself.
And he calls out Tinuviel, which was Luthien's other name.
He does, but she corrects him. She's Arwen Undomiel, Elrond's daughter, just back from visiting her grandmother Galadriel in Lothlorien.
And Aragorn, who just learned about his own high lineage.
He feels it's completely overshadowed. Nothing compared to her dignity and loveliness, Tolkien writes. Instant connection.
But it's not smooth sailing. His own mother, Gilrain, objects.
She does. She thinks Arwen's lineage is more noble, which is ironic given Elrond's mixed heritage, and basically repeats the old warning that elves and men should not intermarry.
Which, as you said, is deeply ironic considering both Aragorn and Arwen descend from precisely those unions, Beren and Luthien, Tuor and Idril.
History repeating itself, or perhaps rhyming. Elrond finds out about their feelings too.
And he lays down the law, basically.
Pretty much. He summons Aragorn, tells him a great doom awaits him, and makes it clear, you shall neither have wife nor bind any woman to you in troth until your time comes and you are found worthy of it.
Meaning, he has to become king, not just of Arnor, but Gondor too, the reunited kingdom.
The whole package. It's an immense task Elrond sets before him, and after that, Aragorn leaves Rivendell, goes into the wild.
Wow, so connecting this the ancestry, that ring's journey through elves and men, the prophecies,
Yeah.
it all converges on this love story.
Absolutely. It's incredibly personal, this love between Aragorn and Arwen, but it's also tied into the very fate of Middle-earth. It carries immense weight.
And they don't meet again for quite some time.
Not until 2980 TA. Aragorn is nearly 50 by then, though still young for his Dúnedain bloodline. He returns to Lothlorien.
Where Arwen is staying again.
Yes. And Galadriel, perhaps seeing what's happening, gives Aragorn these incredible clothes, silver and
Making him look like an elf lord.
setting the stage, you might say. And it's there, on the hill of Cirin Amroth in the heart of Lorien.
They plight their troth. They commit to each other.
Yes, and Arwen makes her choice. She chooses mortality to be with him. I will cleave to you, Dúnedain, and turn from the twilight.
A huge decision for an elf, giving up immortality.
Monumental, and in that moment, Aragorn gives her the Ring of Barahir.
As a token of their betrothal.
Exactly, which is beautiful symbolism because it means Finrod's ring, given in friendship to a man centuries ago, now returns to his own family line.
Because Arwen is Galadriel's granddaughter, and Galadriel was Finrod's sister.
A perfect circle, completed across the ages.
So after this betrothal, Aragorn formally becomes chieftain of the Dúnedain.
The 16th chieftain, yes.
Yeah.
And around 2956, a really crucial meeting happens.
Gandalf the Grey.
Yes, they meet and become fast friends, great allies. And it's Gandalf who advises him about the Shire.
Tells him to keep an eye on it, which is
Right.
how he gets the name Strider among the Greenlanders.
Exactly, watching over the hobbits, guarding their borders, largely unseen.
But he wasn't just lurking around Bree and the Shire for decades, was he? He was undertaking much bigger tasks.
Far bigger. Between roughly 2957 and 2980, that period leading up to his betrothal to Arwen, actually he undertakes many great journeys.
All aimed at fighting Sauron's influence in the West.
Right. But he needs to keep his identity secret. His heritage as Isildur's heir couldn't be widely known yet, so he adopts another name.
Thorongil.
Sindarin for Eagle of the Star. Under this guise, he serves in Rohan under King Thengel.
Theoden's father.
And then, significantly, he serves in Gondor under the steward Ectelion II.
Denethor's father. And this causes some friction?
Major friction. Aragorn as Thorongil is incredibly successful, a great leader, people admire him.
And Denethor feels overshadowed.
Deeply. Tolkien says Denethor felt placed second in his own father's affections and in the hearts of the people. It breeds resentment.
And even then, Aragorn was wary of Saruman.
He was. As Thorongil, he actually advised Ectelion not to trust Saruman, but to listen to Gandalf instead. Wise counsel.
He also leads a major military victory for Gondor, right, against the Corsairs.
A huge one. In 2980, he leads this daring surprise attack at night on the Corsairs of Umbar down south.
Burns many of their ships, kills their leaders.
A captain of the Haven, yeah. It significantly reduced the threat from Umbar for many years, a major strategic win for Gondor.
But he doesn't stick around for the glory.
No, even though great honor awaited him in Minas Tirith, he leaves his men at Pelargir, sends a message saying other tasks now call to him,
And just vanishes.
last seen heading towards Mordor, essentially, toward the Mountains of Shadow.
What was he doing then?
Traveling alone, far into the east and deep into the south, Tolkien says he was exploring the hearts of men, both evil and good, and uncovering the plots and devices of the servants of Sauron.
So reconnaissance, intelligence gathering on a massive scale.
Absolutely. Work that would prove vital decades later during the War of the Ring, ensuring the West wasn't completely caught off guard.
Amidst all this wandering and fighting in secret, he still maintains contact with his mother.
He does, though perhaps infrequently. His last meeting with Gilrain was in 3007 TA.
And she senses the darkness growing.
She does. She tells him it will be their final parting, saying she cannot face the darkness that gathers upon Middle-earth. It's incredibly sad.
And she said something really poignant to him.
Her final words to him are heartbreaking, and they echo his hidden name. Onan I Estel Adain, Uchibin Estel Anim.
Which means?
Roughly, I gave hope to the Dúnedain. I have kept no hope for myself. And Estel, hope, is capitalized, directly referencing Aragorn himself.
Wow, the weight he carried.
Immense. And soon after, another crucial task begins. The hunt for Gollum.
This starts around 3001, when Gandalf really starts suspecting Bilbo's ring is the ring.
Exactly. From Bilbo's 111th birthday party onwards, Gandalf is deeply concerned. Aragorn becomes his chief aide in tracking down Gollum.
And this goes on for years.
A long, arduous search. Aragorn finally catches him in 3017 TA, in the Dead Marshes of all places, near Mordor.
And then he has to get Gollum all the way back north.
All the way to Mirkwood to be held by Thranduil's elves. It's an incredible journey in itself.
Through Emyn Muil, across the Anduin River.
Mm.
How did he even get Gollum across?
Apparently by tying him to a log and swimming across with him at Sarngabir. Can you imagine?
That sounds unpleasant.
Vast understatement, I'm sure. Then along the edge of Fangor Forest, through Lothlorien, where he must have received some aid, and finally delivering him to Thranduil.
How far was that in total?
The estimate is something like 900 miles, on foot, with Gollum.
The patience, the sheer endurance, that's staggering.
It really is. A testament to his commitment, his ranger skills, and maybe a hint of the trials still to come in the War of the Ring.
So after years of secret missions, hunting Gollum, wandering, the War of the Ring finally erupts. Aragorn's time in the shadows is ending.
It is. And maybe we should pause here. He spent decades as Strider, as Thorongil, operating covertly. What do you think that shift felt like, suddenly stepping into the full glare of his destiny?
That's a great point. For so long, his power was this hidden potential, whispers of Strider and Bree, maybe legends of Thorongil further south, but now...
Now it has to become real, public.
He meets Gandalf again in May 3018, learns Frodo has the ring, and needs to leave the Shire.
And then, that fateful night, September 29th, 3018...
The hobbits arrive at the Prancing Pony and Bree, and there he is.
Strider, sitting in the corner, watching, he confronts Frodo later, reveals his connection to Gandalf.
Shows them the broken sword hilt, the shards of Narsil, proof of who he claims to be.
A massive leap of faith for the hobbits, really. But they trust him.
And he guides them east, towards Rivendell. but they're pursued.
By the Nazgul. The encounter at Weathertop, October 6, 5 ring wraiths attack.
Frodo is stabbed with a Morgul blade. A terrible wound.
Aragorn manages to drive the Nazgul off, using fire and, likely, invoking the name of Elbereth when he tends to Frodo's wound.
With Ithillis, King's foil, trying to slow the poison.
Yes, applying what healing knowledge he has as a ranger, he gets Frodo to Rivendell just in time.
Where Elrond's skill can fully heal him.
And it's in Rivendell at the Council of Elrond that everything changes for Aragorn publicly.
His identity as the heir of Elendil, Isildur's heir, is announced to representatives of all the free peoples.
No more hiding. And Bilbo Baggins recites that poem.
All that is gold does not glitter. The prophecy of the king's return.
Not all those who wander are lost. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king.
A powerful moment.
And Narsilla's reforged.
Into Andúril, the flame of the west, a potent symbol for the coming fight.
Aragorn joins the Fellowship of the Ring, officially setting out on December 25th, 3018.
Though not without reservations. He was reluctant about the path through Moria.
Warned Gandalf specifically, didn't he? If you pass the doors of Moria, beware.
He did, a grim foresight. And after Gandalf falls fighting the Balrog,
Aragorn has to step up. He leads the Heartbroken Fellowship out of Moria and into Lothlorien.
where his connection to the elves clearly surprises some of the others, like Boromir.
Definitely. And it's in Lorien that Galadriel gives him a significant gift.
The Elessar, the Elfstone, that green gem.
As a wedding gift, she implies, connecting it to Arwen and fulfilling that ancient prophecy from his great-grandmother Ivorwin about the green stone on his breast.
And he takes his royal name, Elessar, from that stone later on.
He does. And as they leave Lorien and pass the Argonath, those giant statues of Isildur and Anarion.
Frodo sees him differently.
Yes. Frodo looks at him and sees a king returning from exile. The transformation is becoming visible.
But the fellowship breaks. At Amon Hen, Boromir tries to take the ring, then dies defending Merry and Pippin.
A tragic moment. Aragorn finds him dying.
And offers him comfort, reassures him. You have conquered, be at peace. Minas Tirith shall not fall. A kingly promise.
He realizes Frodo and Sam have gone on alone towards Mordor. He has to make a choice.
Pursue the ring, or rescue Merry and Pippin from the orcs.
He chooses the hobbits. He, Legolas, and Gimli become the three hunters.
And they set off on that incredible chase across Rohan.
45 leagues, that's about 135 miles in just 3 days. Non-stop running. Incredible feat of endurance.
They meet Éomer and the riders of Rohan.
Aragorn forms a quick bond with Éomer, gets horses, and continues the pursuit.
And on March 1st, his 89th birthday, remarkably they encounter someone unexpected in Fangorn Forest.
Gandalf the White, returned from death.
Who then leads them to Edoras, Rohan's capital.
Where Gandalf heals King Theoden from Saruman's influence, Aragorn stands beside him.
And then rides with Theoden and the Rohirrim to Helm's Deep.
Where he plays a crucial role in defending the Hornburg against Saruman's Uruk-hai, a pivotal battle.
After the victory at Helm's Deep, and dealing with Saruman at Isengard.
Where Aragorn receives the keys of Orthanc from Treebeard the Ent and declares Isengard an Entish domain.
Gandalf gives him something incredibly dangerous.
The Palantir of Orthanc, one of the seeing stones that Saruman had been using.
And Aragorn actually uses it, willingly.
He does. A hugely bold move. He looks into the stone and directly challenges Sauron.
Reveals himself. Let Sauron know the heir of Isildur lives and holds the reforged sword.
Knowing it's a massive risk, but also a necessary one, to distract Sauron and assert his own claim. Sauron has not forgotten Isildur and the Sword of Elendil, he says.
Soon after, reinforcements arrive for him.
Yes, the Grey Company, his own Dúnedain kin from the north, led by Halbarad, along with Elrond's sons, Elladan and Elrohir.
And they brought something significant from Arwen.
A gift and a message. A great and kingly standard woven by her. Black, with the white tree of Gondor, the 7 stars, and the crown of Elendil, a banner for the king.
And this arrival prompts his next major decision. The Paths of the Dead.
The most terrifying path. He takes it on March 8th with Legolas, Gimli, and the Grey Company.
To summon the Oathbreakers, those cursed spirits.
Exactly. He reaches the Stone of Eric at midnight and calls them forth, holding them to the oath they broke to his ancestor Isildur thousands of years before.
And they obey him.
They do. Their fear becomes his weapon. He leads this spectral army south to Pelargir.
Uses them to defeat the Corsairs.
Captures the entire Corsair fleet on March 13th, freeing up the southern forces of Gondor and providing ships to sail up the Anduin, a masterstroke.
So Aragorn arrives at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields by river, on the captured Corsair ships.
unfurling Arwen's banner at the critical moment, a symbol of hope turning the tide.
But after the battle, he doesn't immediately claim the throne.
No, he's cautious. He doesn't want to incite civil strife. But he does enter the city, almost secretly.
To heal the wounded in the Houses of Healing.
Yes, Faramir, Éowyn, Merry. They are all gravely ill, near death from black breath or other wounds.
And Aragorn uses his knowledge of Athelas, Kingsfoil.
And something more. The healing power inherent in the line of kings. He fulfills the old Gondorian prophecy. The hands of the king are the hands of a healer, and so shall the rightful king be known.
That must have convinced many who were uncertain.
It was a powerful confirmation of his right to rule. After that, he leads the desperate march to the Black Gate.
A diversionary tactic to draw Sauron's attention away from Frodo and Sam in Mordor.
A near-suicidal mission, leading the host of the West against overwhelming odds.
And at the Black Gate, on March 25th, he confronts Sauron's herald, the mouth of Sauron.
Who tries to taunt and demoralize them, but Aragorn's gaze alone is enough to strike fear into him.
Then the ring is destroyed. Sauron falls.
And Aragorn's first thoughts are for the ring bearers. He goes with Gandalf to find Frodo and Sam on the slopes of Mount Doom.
And heals them at the Field of Cormel, the Celebration Field.
Bringing them back from the very brink of death. He also shows mercy, pardoning the Easterling soldiers who surrendered.
And finally, the coronation.
On May 1st, 3019 TA, Aragorn is crowned King Elessar of Gondor, and Arnor II, the Reunited Kingdom. Faramir makes the formal proclamation, listing his many titles.
He keeps Faramir on as steward.
Yes, and makes him Prince of Ithilien and Lord of Emin Arnon, honoring his service and loyalty.
But there's one more piece missing for Aragorn personally.
Arwen. Around June 25th, Gandalf tells him his own work is done, perhaps hinting. Aragorn feels a moment of doubt, worries about her arrival.
And he finds something symbolic.
He goes up Mount Mindaloon, behind the city, and finds a sapling of the White Tree, Nimloch's descendant, growing where none thought possible, a sign of hope and renewal.
He plants it in the citadel, replacing the dead tree.
And soon after, Elrond and Arwen arrive, around June 30th.
And now Elrond gives him the scepter.
Yes. The final symbol of his earned kingship, Elrond presents him with the scepter of Annúminas.
And he and Arwen are married.
On Midsummer's Day, 3019, a joyous culmination after decades of struggle and waiting.
So King Elessar's reign begins. What are his first priorities?
Honoring allies and restoring the kingdom. Pretty soon after the wedding, on July 22nd, he rides north with the funeral escort for King Theoden of Rohan.
And on that journey, he makes a point of recognizing the Dúnedain, the wild men of the woods.
Yes, Gunbaragon and his people. He formally declares the Forest of Dúnedain belongs to them forever, protected, acknowledging their help in the war.
He also deals with Isengard.
Confirms it as an Entish realm, the Treegarth of Orthanc, under Treebeard's watch.
And during the cleanup there, something amazing is found.
Quite amazing. Buried in Orthanc, they find the original Elendilmere, the Star of Elendil that Isildur wore and lost at the Gladden Fields.
Saruman must have found it somehow. Incredible.
A piece of ancient history recovered. Back in Gondor, Aragorn reestablishes the Great Council, with Faramir as his chief advisor.
And strengthens ties with Rohan.
Renews the Oath of Cirion with King Éomer, pledging unending alliance between the two kingdoms.
But peace wasn't instant, was it? There were still enemies.
Definitely. Tolkien notes he had many enemies to subdue before the White Tree could grow in peace, especially in the east and south.
So he spends years campaigning.
Yes, often alongside King Éomer, securing the borders and making their lands safe for generations to come.
He also makes sure to honor his smaller allies, the hobbits.
Very much so. About 17 years into his reign, year 15 of the Fourth Age, he and Arwen travel north and meet the hobbits near the borders of the Shire.
And he makes a formal declaration about the Shire.
Declares it a free land, under the protection of his northern scepter, formally forbidding big folk men from entering without the hobbits' permission.
And appoints key hobbits as counselors.
Yes, the Thane of the Shire, who by then is Pippin Took, and the mayor of Michel Delving, Samwise Gamgee, become counselors of the North Kingdom. He also officially adds the West March, the land up to the Emin Baraid, Tower Hills, to the Shire.
His other companions contribute to the rebuilding too.
Legolas brings elves to settle in Ithilien, making it beautiful again.
And Gimli.
Gimli brings dwarves from the glittering caves behind Helm's Deep. They do incredible stonework in Minas Tirith, notably rebuilding the Great Gate with mithril and steel.
Stronger and more beautiful than before, Aragorn also founds his own royal house.
The House of Telcontar. which is simply the Elvish Quenya word for strider.
Strider. So he embraces that name from his wandering days. Apparently Pippin suggested it.
That's the story, linking his kingship back to his time as a ranger. It's a nice touch.
And years later, Pippin brings him a very important book.
In year 63 of the Fourth Age, Pippin and Merry, now old, travel to Gondor. Pippin brings a copy of the Red Book of Westmarch, the Hobbit's account of their adventures. It's known as the Thane's Book in Gondor.
And Merry and Pippin stay in Gondor.
They spend their final years there honored guests and are eventually laid to rest in Dúnedain, the tombs of the kings, beside Aragorn himself.
So Aragorn lives this incredibly long life, 210 years. Rules for 122 years. That brings us to the end of his story. What's the significance of his death?
It's hugely significant. King Elessar dies on March 1st, year 120 of the Fourth Age. But how he dies is key.
He chooses it.
He voluntarily lays down his life when he feels his time has come. He doesn't wait for sickness or senility.
Like the great Númenórean kings of old were meant to do.
Exactly. Embracing mortality, the gift of men as a gift, not clinging desperately to life like later Númenóreans or indeed like Denethor. It shows his wisdom and completes his arc.
A final act of grace and kingship. He has a last conversation with Arwen.
A deeply moving one. She is understandably heartbroken, overborne by her grief at the prospect of his passing and her own long, lonely future.
What does he say to comfort her?
He reminds her of the hope beyond Middle-earth. We are not bound forever to the circles of the world, and beyond them is more than memory, a reassurance of reunion, perhaps, or at least release.
And Arwen, what happens to her?
After Aragorn's passing, she says farewell to their son Eldarion, who becomes the next king foretold to rule for a long time himself.
100 generations of men, I think the line was.
Something like that, yes. Arwen then travels back to Lothlorien, now empty of her kin.
And she dies there.
A few months later, alone on the hill of Cirin Amroth.
The exact spot where she and Aragorn pledged their love centuries before.
A poignant, heartbreaking end for her, mirroring her choice to embrace mortality.
What an incredible deep dive.
Yeah.
Aragorn's life, it's just epic on every scale. From Estel, the hidden hope,
To Strider the Ranger, Thorongil the Captain, the Healer King.
and finally King Elessar Telcontar, the restorer of the kingdom who embraces the gift of men at the end. His story really is about destiny, but also about courage and humility.
Absolutely. You see all those threads, the ancient ring, those crucial friendships with Gandalf, Legolas, Gimli, the hobbits, his profound love for Arwen, the endless battles.
They all weave together.
To create this character whose journey just perfectly exemplifies the struggle and eventual triumph of good.
So as you, our listener, reflect on Aragorn's life, maybe think about this. He carried this immense weight, centuries of heritage and expectation.
A huge burden.
Yet, ultimately, it was his personal choices, his compassion, his steadfastness, his willingness to serve in shadow before leading in light that defined his kingship.
So the question for you might be, what's the weight of the legacy you carry? Whether it's family history, expectations, or just your own past. How does it empower you, or maybe challenge you, on your own path?
And another thought, think about the deliberate choices Aragorn made, especially after the war, restoring peace, honoring allies, rebuilding.
Replanting the White Tree, giving lands back to the Dúnedain, protecting the Shire.
How might those conscious efforts to build and sustain connections, to bring balance back to a broken world, inspire your own efforts in your life, in your communities?
How do we build and sustain meaningful connections today? It's a timeless question.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life of Aragorn Elessar.
We hope you feel a bit more informed, maybe saw some connections you hadn't before.
And perhaps feel a little more inspired. We'll see you next time.